Everyone knows that competitive sports are not for the faint-hearted. Each sport brings with it a different roller coaster of emotions, and tennis is no exception. It's true, emotions run pretty high on the tennis court. Sometimes we laugh in joy and scream in anger, and other times we just let the tears roll down. In today's video, we'll be looking at the 10 most emotional moments in tennis. First up, we have Grigor Dimitrov scoring an emotional upset over Novak Djokovic. As you can imagine, nerves run pretty high when you're up against the former world number one. And yet, 21-year-old Grigor Dimitrov stunned top-ranked Novak Djokovic in the second round of the Madrid Open, earning the biggest victory of his career. Despite winning junior titles at Wimbledon, Dimitrov still had a lot to prove to the world. After all, being given the title of Baby Federer comes with a lot of insane pressure. So even though Grigor made his mark in the tennis world really early on, people still questioned whether he was good enough to beat the reigning tennis kings. And Dimitrov let his racket do the talking when he claimed an easy victory against the legendary Novak. In tears after the match, Dimitrov wrote, "I love you, Dad," on the camera, and soaked in all the glory while we shed some tears at the wholesomeness of it all. Next, Bethanie Mattek-Sands' brutal Wimbledon knee injury. Tennis injuries are often ugly and painful, and it's never easy to watch our favorite players roll around on the courts in pain. Back in 2017, we were brought to tears watching Bethanie Mattek-Sands scream in agony after suffering from a knee injury. It happened during the second round against Romania's Sorana Cirstea when Sands collapsed on the grass and began to wail. The crowd watched in horror, seeing the stricken tennis player on the floor in distress. Her doubles partner, Lucy Safarova-Sorana, also ran to the courts in anguish. Sands was quickly transported to the hospital, where it was found that she had dislocated her patella and ruptured her patella tendon and needed to undergo surgery. Thankfully, Mattek-Sands was able to return to action 8 months after surgery. She also came back to Wimbledon in 2018 to make peace with Court 17 after the mishap of the previous summer. And let's not forget Djokovic's waterworks after extended ovation from French fans. After coming up short against Rafael Nadal twice, 2015 was supposed to be Novak's year to finally break his Roland Garros luck. And after he defeated the King of Clay in the semis, it seemed more attainable than ever. The Serb was off to a good start in the final, till Stan Wawrinka started to hit back and eventually took the match in 4. Like this, all dreams of Djokovic were crushed following his gut-wrenching French Open final loss. But when a devastated Djokovic came to collect his runner-up silverware, he was greeted by a spine-tingling 90-second standing ovation as fans chanted his name in unison. Despite trying his best, Djokovic couldn't hold back the tears and let it all out. It was truly a sight to see. Commentators at Roland Garros had never before witnessed such a reception for a beaten finalist. Moving on, remember when Grigor Dimitrov comforted a crying ball boy? Athletes are bound to get a few injuries in the courts, but sometimes there's also a bit of collateral damage. Like when, in 2016, Canadian player Vasek Pospisil made a service fault and accidentally hit a young ball boy at the Shanghai Masters Tennis Tournament. Since the service came at a startling speed of 204 kph and hit the young boy right in the chest, the child let out an audible whimper before allowing the tears to stroll down. And suddenly, opponent Grigor Dimitrov came to the rescue. After seeing what had happened, the former world number 18 ran over to console the boy and even handed him his sweatband to cheer him up. Now that's how you win some hearts. Then, we have Andy Murray's miraculous first title after a lengthy layoff. It's no secret that Andy Murray is an emotional fella. After a 4th straight Grand Slam final loss in 2010, the athlete humorously admitted that he can cry like Roger, but not play like him. Sadly, after Murray's hip issues arose, the tennis player feared the end of his career was near. In an emotional press conference, he even announced that the 2019 Australian Open might be his last appearance. But Andy was determined to make it back to the top tier. And after a career-saving second right hip surgery, he finished his ATP Tour event of 2019 in tears of joy at the European Open in Antwerp. The victory, of course, came with a lot of emotions as Murray sat down on a bench to cry his heart out as spectators roared in admiration. It was quite a bittersweet occasion. Also, the time when Steve Johnson won the French Open weeks after his father's death. Most times, we are unaware of the battles athletes are fighting as they stand on the court ready to give it their all. And Steve Johnson is just one such example. After losing his father in 2017, the athlete found it very difficult to keep it together. According to Johnson, his dad's death turned him into an emotional wreck, and we saw it firsthand when he won his match against Borna Coric at the French Open the same year. Playing just a couple of weeks after his father passed away, Steve sank to his knees and completely broke down after his second round win at Roland Garros. It was an absolutely gut-wrenching sight. In the post-match interview, the then 27-year-old American player explained that he dearly misses his dad, but he knows he's watching out for him and giving him the strength to keep playing. Oof. This one really tugged at our heartstrings. Then, we have David Ferrer's goodbye. You can't ask for the saddest moments of tennis and expect us not to bring up some retirements. And we think David Ferrer's farewell deserves some mention here. All the tennis folks here probably still remember that night in Madrid when the Spanish star played his last match back in May 2019. Probably the best part of this final was when, before the final point, his opponent Alexander Zverev waved his arms at the crowd to cheer up the little beast. Wow, talk about sportsmanship. After slamming down his last serve and sending a backhand long, Ferrer put an end to his 19-year-long career, and for one last time, dropped his headband on the court, leaving literal sweat on the battlefield. His final speech was bound to bring an outpour of tears from everyone, as he said that he finished his career when he wanted to, calling himself a lucky man for that. And did you know Andrea Petkovic has also called it quits? Speaking of farewells, unfortunately, Serena Williams isn't the only tennis queen to be retiring after this year's US Open. Germany's Andrea Petkovic, a former world number 9, ended her Grand Slam career with a teary farewell just a few days ago in New York. The 34-year-old Bosnian-born fan favorite was unable to defeat Switzerland's Belinda Bencic on day 2, but left the court feeling content. She was not only happy with the fact that she got a chance to end her last Grand Slam match with a trademark effort, but was also delighted to have said goodbye to tennis by going up against her longtime friend. And as you can probably guess, tears were not spared from either side as they embraced each other in a fierce hug. Another hard-to-watch moment came when Juan Martín del Potro lost to Stanislas Wawrinka. After beating both Federer and Nadal in 2009, Juan Martín was all set to win his first Grand Slam title at the US Open, and then came his wrist surgeries that changed his style of play forever. It got to the point that the star began to contemplate retiring at 27, but then he made quite the comeback in 2016, winning an Olympic silver medal and a first Davis Cup triumph for his country. But then came his match against Wawrinka, and it wasn't going too well for him, as Wawrinka prepared to usher Delpo out of the 2016 US Open with his serve. The crowd started backing the Tower of Tendil with prolonged cheers, leaving the big Argentine crying on the court. The 2009 champ later admitted that even though he lost the match, he'll never be able to forget the love and support of his fans. Lastly, when Laszlo Djere dedicated his ATP title to his deceased parents, we're about to end on quite a sad note, so we dare y'all to hold your tears tight. Every time someone mentions their parents, you know you're gonna end up sobbing. And so, the ATP World Tour 500 was no different when the Serb Laszlo Djere dedicated his 2019 win in Rio to his parents, whom he lost due to cancer. After an amazing run at the Rio Open, Laszlo capped it off with his maiden ATP Tour singles title, which he dedicated to his parents through a heart-touching speech. In the emotional speech, Laszlo spoke about losing his mom to cancer when he was was only 7 years old, and then dug the dagger deeper by adding that he also lost his father 2 months ago. He ended his speech by saying that he hopes his parents are watching over him. We're sure they're super proud of you, Laszlo. That's a wrap for this video. Which moment in particular did you find most heartbreaking? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.